I'm going to start this live with something uncomfortable but honest. Your capability statement is probably getting thrown away, not because you're unqualified, not because you're too small, but because it looks exactly like everyone else's, and it fails the 7-second test. Tonight, I'm going to show you how to write a capability statement that actually gets read, gets remembered, and gets you meetings instead of silence. Today, we're going to discuss how to write capability statements that win, stop getting ignored by government contracts so that you can start winning. Your capability statement is getting thrown away. Most capability statements look exactly the same, say the same things, and end up in the same place, the trash. The hard truth, 7 seconds is the average review time of our capability statements, and 90% of them look identical. So what happens? You get 0 responses. And if you're new to my channel, my name is Eric Coffey, and I teach people how to win at government contracts. If you have any questions, my phone number is below my name, and the email is at the bottom of most slides. For this particular presentation, if you have any questions about anything we talk about, email win to hello@govcon.edu, and we'll be happy to help. What we're going to cover today is most capability statements fail, number 1. Number 2, the 6 sections that every capability statement needs. Number 3, how to make your agency specific, which is the key. Number 4, real examples that work. And number 5, a free template that you can use today. And at the end, for those of you who watch till the very end, I'm going to actually show you the template that I made for this client of mine that has landed them $35 million in contracts since 2019. So quick recap this far of this series that we've been teaching the last few weeks. Week number 1, $82 billion opportunity. We went over that a few weeks ago. Last week, we went over the agency pain points. Also, we discussed some of the free resources that any one of you guys can download, still available on our website, govcongiants.org/surge. And then today, we're discussing capability statements that win. So let's go through why most capability statements fail. The first thing is they're too generic. So for example, when you write, we provide quality services, at that time, there's no clear differentiator. So what does that mean? What makes you unique? Again, I'm going to give you all examples of this throughout the presentation. So don't worry if you never heard the word or you're not sure of what to put, we're going to show you that later on. They're not agency specific, meaning that the same document you're sending to everyone. They're missing key information, right? Most of us do put our cage code, and most do put our NAICS code, but there's things that we don't put that I'll go over, like I said before. I've seen hundreds of capability statements over the last 8 years, and it seems like people keep doing the same things over and over again. And I know a part of the reason is because when you're starting on this journey, you have little to no experience, or you're confused on whether or not you can use your corporate job as past performance for your capability statement. I'm going to say right now, the answer is yes. It just depends on how you write it up. So I understand why a lot of people do this, but what I want to explain to you is how we can fix and solve for this issue moving forward. Poor design layout seems to be the problem that I face with probably about more than half of the capability statements I read. The design itself is horrible, and it's hard to scan through it in 7 seconds or less. So keep that in mind when we're putting these things together, that's about all the time anyone's going to afford you when they're looking at your document. So the goal of your capability statement is to get a meeting, right? Not a contract, not an award, just a conversation. That's it. Everything else comes after that. But that's the first thing. When anyone sees us, right, you only get one chance to make a first impression. So if your goal is to eventually get a contract, prior to getting the contract, you've got to get a meeting. If you can't get the meeting, you can't get the contract, ultimately. So let's talk about the 6 essential sections. All right. So number 1, the company header, right? Your logo, name, tagline, contact information, cage, UEI. Okay. Number 2, your core competencies, 3 to 5 specific things that you do best. Number 3, your differentiators, what makes you different from competitors. And what's interesting about number 3 is literally this week, I met with one of my students who's been doing really well at local contracts. And when we were showing him about capability statements and asking about his differentiators, He said he didn't have any. And so I see now that was his challenge of why he's not been able to break into the federal marketplace. Because again, this is a key area where you have to be able to say to the person on the other side what makes you special. Let's just say it that way. Instead of saying differentiate, what makes you special, right? There's always something about us that makes us special, not just because our parents tell us so. Number 4, past performance. 2 to 3 relevant contracts with actual results. Again, if it's work experience, we'll talk about how to put your work experience in there. And as always, feel free to ask questions, because at the end of this presentation, I'm going to take Q&A and we're going to show some real life examples, but also I'll be able to answer any questions you may have. If you want to send me your capability statement, I could take a look at it and I could go through and pull it up and dissect it. Number 5, company data, NAICS code, certifications, clearances, size, things like that. Number 6, a call to action. What do you want them to do next? I'm willing to bet that there's 39 people watching this right now. Probably 0 of you guys have on there any type of call to action. So let's go through each one of those sections. So the first section, company header, right? First impression, make it count, right? Professional logo, high resolution, company name, prominently displayed, tagline explains what you do, contact name, phone, email, cage code, UEI number, right? Now, a website is not necessary. I want to say this because a website is on the screen. It is not necessary that you go out and build a website. I am not telling anyone to do that. Let me change my screen. Again, I'm not telling you to build a website. I have helped companies win millions of dollars with 0 websites. So I'm not telling you to go build websites. I'm just saying if you happen to have one, put it on there. If you don't have one, don't build one. Don't invest the money. You're better off taking that money and putting into redoing your SBA profile or hiring a mentor or hiring someone that can actually help you get government contracts. Don't invest money in websites. All right. Number 2. So this is where a lot of people get wrong. Core competencies, what you do best, be specific. What most of you guys write is IT services, right? That's what you're not supposed to do. You don't do that. You write cloud migration for legacy DoD systems. A lot of us write professional services. Okay, CMMC level 2 compliance consulting. Quality solutions, right? 24/7 cybersecurity monitoring and response. If you don't know where to get these words from, if you've been tracking me for the last few weeks, one of the things that we discuss a lot on our channel is understanding agency pain points. So when you understand agency pain points and agency priorities, you can overlap that with the things that you know how to do. And it's interesting is that it's not that you guys actually lack the capability, you just lack the ability to communicate that to the person on the other end. And so that's where the disconnect is happening. All of us have the prerequisite skill sets, but we're not communicating that to the person that's sitting down and reading it. You're hoping that you can explain it to them when you get to them. But unfortunately, you don't get that chance all the time. All right. Switch back to the slide. Hold on one second. All right. So let's talk about here some differentiators. Why you should choose you over 1,000 other companies. Unique methodology or approach. So for us, for example, I used to do steel buildings, and there's ways that you can put up a steel building. We have installers that might be local installers. We may have installers that have more experience than other installers. We've got people that are willing to travel, things like that. What are some of the things where maybe people have complained about in the past that you're like, oh no, we'll do that. So think about it from that standpoint, right? Specialized certifications or clearances. Again, I'll use myself as an example. When I did steel buildings, myself as the owner, I got licensed to inspect the roofs. So I was able to issue these 20-year warranties for these roof inspections. So again, myself, what I would write is that, hey, I'm actually certified to inspect metal building roofs. So I know what the quality of the roof should be like. So I could say that and confidently to someone, right? There's little things like that you have that you're probably taking for granted. Another thing that a lot of us, that I've heard this word used before, which is like essentially there's people out here they've done 3 different careers, but you're like, I don't know which to pick. But a lot of the skill sets from one career, when you mesh that in another area, the people in that particular field doesn't have that expertise. So I'll give you an example for, like, I do construction, but I know how to code. So how many construction guys actually know how to code? You may think that coding's not important when it comes to construction, but when I've had to submit on some of my documents to the government, where we had to do a like, not a scheduled values, where we had to do actually like a scheduled timeline, and the timelines that they wanted were done using software systems. My coding skills allowed me to do that. Now there's tools, obviously you can do it, but the standard guy who builds or repaints or things like that, they don't know how to make schedules. And these are some of the things that separate me from the other guys who just were doing construction. So think about any specialized certifications, any clearances you have. Also geographic advantage, right? Local presence. I use that all the time. I'm a local contractor. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that's worked for me. Is I've been strategically advantaged. So I gave this example in one of my presentations a few weeks ago when we were talking, when I was first pitching my capabilities to a naval port. I said that we had a location, a physical site that was 10 minutes off base. So that was a specialized advantage that we had where other people did not. We had a facility that was 10 minutes off base, and we could store our materials there so that we wouldn't be impacting the laydown areas on the base. Speed, flexibility, capacity. Again, a lot of times when you're small businesses, you actually are more nimble than the large companies. Another example I'll give is someone told me that when the government reached out to them about taking a contract from a large business to their small business. And what they were able to say was that the government's problem was their systems that the large companies were monitoring. The large business did not work weekends. So this smaller company said, yeah, well, no, we've got guys that work weekends. And if you call us on the weekend, someone will pick up the phone to make sure that you don't have an outage. That was enough to get them to take this contract from a large company and give it to the small business. So you don't realize that as a small business, you have certain advantages. The big guys can't do that. They can't guarantee that. So most of the people that are dealing on their projects are 9 to 5, unless they're employed to work weekends. Again, other things I've heard is they can't reach some executives. They can't reach decision makers, right? So things like that as a small business, I think a lot of times we forget that we have that ability to do that, right? If that's going to make the difference between you sending away your first $600,000 contract, then yeah, I'll pick up the phone on the weekend. Sure, if you call. Why would you not pick up the phone if the government calls and you're trying to, make a good name for yourself with this agency? Specific mission experience. So it's funny because I was talking to some veterans this past weekend, and they were talking about government contracts, right? And I said to them, you don't realize that as a veteran, the federal agency structure, you understand a lot of that structure because you were already military. So you understand hierarchy, you understand combatant commands, you even understand rank and file, which people like me who are civilians who never served, we don't understand any of that stuff. That is your unique differentiator from someone like me who's having to learn what these different words mean within the military ranking. And again, since the federal agencies, a lot of the guys that sit at the top of these things served in the military, you can communicate to them. That is specific experience that we don't have, that I think a lot of veterans just kind of brush off as like because that was your day-to-day experiences. But that's a strategic advantage when you work, like you were deployed over in this facility at this base, at this location, you were stationed over here. Like you know what the terms mean. I've got to go try to learn that and understand it and then put it into layman's terms so I can communicate what I mean. So again, a lot of things that you don't necessarily count as experience, you actually already have a lot of that experience. Number 4, past performance. So this is something else that I don't get it. I don't see small businesses putting past performance. So I don't see people putting differentiators. I don't see them putting past performance. Proof that you can deliver. Results matter. Again, for all my veterans out there, you've done hard stuff. Like, you've done really hard things before. So you actually have come through in times of crisis, in times of panic. But you don't think about that because, again, it was part of your duty, part of your service. So again, the same thing. When people put in their past performance, they rarely put in there like what the problem they helped the client solve. So again, I helped this client solve this problem by this solution, resulting in this output. All right. That's the easy way to frame it. Right. So here's an example below. Migrate Department of Army's legacy HR systems to AWS Cloud, reducing downtime by 94% and saving $2.3 million annually in maintenance costs. Any one of us could do that. Just think about how to reframe it. I'll give you another example of someone that I helped with the capability statement before on their past performance. So I was helping this lady. She was a small business, and she actually did residential cleaning. And so in her residential cleaning business, I said, okay. She goes, Eric, I have never done government contracts. I only do janitor, like I clean houses for a living. Cool. But so I said, okay, let's flip the script. So what is the size houses you clean? 1,400 square feet, 2,000 square feet. She goes, oh, she's in Atlanta. She's like, yeah, they're around 2,000 to 3,000 square feet. Okay. How many houses do you clean per month? I don't know, 50 houses. Okay. So if you clean 2,000 square foot houses, 50 houses per month, that's 100,000 square feet per month that you're cleaning. So that's a different way to put it than to say I clean 50 houses or resident homes. I clean 50,000 square foot of space monthly. Does that make sense to everybody out here? So I was able to translate it into the terms that the government speaks and understands, because they're measuring it in terms of square footage of service area that you do, right? And the task. But as opposed to putting in, I just clean homes, or I clean 10 homes or 20 homes, that doesn't have a measurable value to them. So we need to be able somehow to quantify that in a term that's relatable to statements of work, scopes of work that the government has. Company data, right? So again, I think we all get that cage code, UI, we put all that stuff on there. Everyone's good at putting about certifications. What I hate to see is when you put the logos of SAM.gov, when you put the logos of, like, they don't need a SAM.gov logo. If you're pitching to a federal agency, they don't need to see that you are a New York State certified logo. They don't need to see your CBE Orlando logo. They don't need, if you're pitching to federal agencies, you should be putting on their federal items. SAM.gov, by the way, is not a certification. I'm not lying to you. I've seen people put SAM.gov on a capability statement because they're trying to fill up space. Do not put SAM.gov on there. There's no certified in SAM.gov. Please don't put that on there. All right. A lot of people are afraid to talk about so again, the biggest thing here I would say is confusion. People are putting on there like you are NCMMA certified or something like that. They're putting on here you're an AFCEA, or like, we don't care about your associations. That doesn't matter. None of that helps me to understand how you add value to a project. So unless it's relatable to statement of work, scope of work, or of delivery of some sort, then I don't care to see it. We don't choose, right? We don't choose based on you are Florida-based LLC, register as a Miami vendor. There's not a prime contractor that's going to choose you because of that, right? Bonding capacity. Even if you don't have bonding and you're in construction, go get bonding, put something on there. Don't leave it blank, because all it does is it leaves questions subject to people have that makes you seem insufficient. If you're in IT and you're going after projects that require secret clearances, then you need to be able to explain what's happening in that process, because if you don't understand the requirements of the scopes that you're going after, then they're going to see that you don't know what you're talking about. So you need to be able to address those items in this section so that they know that you are working towards it or working on it, or you've got a solution where you've solved for it. So again, know who you're targeting so that you can write to them the things that they are looking for companies that do and deliver the kind of services that you'd like to deliver. Let's look at this. Tell them what you do, right? Now, I will say this. A lot of people put context for more information. All right. So I'm in between on this. I like to say this in the email, not necessarily on my capability statement. However, making sure that did anybody see my video on the 5 slides? I'll make sure I reference it at the end. But when you meet with them, you're supposed to have 5 slides that you discuss. That would be part of my presentation, not necessarily in my call to action on my capability statement, but I would be my call to action in my actual email box. So I wouldn't put it in my capability statement. I would put it in an actual email that goes out to the person, right, to schedule a call with us to discuss their challenges with cloud migration or their IT modernization priorities. Okay, so let's talk about, again, agency-specific customization. I've always done this, and what I've done is, for example, again, I'm a construction guy. So for me, I look at, right, our past projects and what projects are aligned with the agency that we're going after and what project speaks to the things that they're curious to hear. So for me, we mainly swap out our past performance and to talk about different things. So I'll give you an example towards the end, but I'll just kind of go over it with you, what I mean by that. So for me, what I mean is, for example, when you do a big project, there's a lot of stuff that went into that project. So on construction, if we did a renovation of a building, well, we maybe had to paint walls, we had to replace doors, we had to replace flooring. Maybe we had to clean up a hazardous area, right? So it's hard to write all that inside of one little box because you're trying to tell them everything that you do. But if I know that I'm going after an agency whose needs and priorities are focused on hazmat cleanup, then I'm going to make my emphasis more on hazmat cleanup than on building renovation. If I know I'm going after an agency that they have more building renovation needs, I'm going to make my capability statement talk more about building renovation. So that's what I mean about customizing it, is that, again, we're the same company with the same differentiators, with the same past kind of agency performance. And again, I'll show you what I mean. But my focus on the solutions that I solve for the customers will be more in line with the problem sets that the government agency specifically has that we're targeting. So again, a lot of us with different scopes of work that we've done, even if we did it in our actual jobs, right? You did a lot of different variety of things, but maybe one agency cares more about this part of the scope than the other part of the scope. And so knowing their priorities, their needs, the challenges they have, you can focus more on one piece of the scope of work on some of your projects than the others. Hopefully I was able to say that clearly. Again, if you have any questions about anything, our phone numbers are here and our emails are right there. So I just want to say that because people always say that they haven't been able to reach us. But again, we've got people answering phones and emails all the time. All right, so I kind of went over this, how to customize for each agency. I already kind of went over this, but again, knowing their strategic plan and their priorities has really helped me to be able to talk to the customer. It's really helped me. I mean, even when we are having our briefings and I'm having my one-on-one meetings with them and we're pitching the agency, our capabilities, knowing their priorities, I mean, again, that is something that I talk about. Again, specific pain points. I mentioned earlier today, having small laydown areas, having companies that are not local, having vendors, having a different supplier base, all of these things, right? I knew by having conversations with that agency. So when I was able to pitch them, I was able to talk to them specifically about that. Using their terminology and acronyms. Most of us do not even know what the terminology and acronyms that customer we were trying to woo over is using. So we don't even know how to talk to that because we just like, well, I don't know, Eric. I've never looked it up. So again, knowing the terminology and acronyms shows that you are proficient in understanding how to do business with that agency, even if you've never done business with them before, just because you're using their words, right? Referencing their mission and your core competencies. Again, every agency has mission, and when you talk to the client, they know if or not you know that mission based on how you talk, and if or not you are aligned with helping them solve that mission, right? And again, showing relevant past performance. I kind of went over some examples of that, similar to the agency. So those are the things that I do. So here's some examples. Before, IT services and solutions. For Department of Homeland Security, border security technology integration, right? You probably did or can do border security technology. You just didn't say that. And so they didn't know it. So then they're like, okay, well, what do you mean by IT services? But they're not likely to give you the chance to explain because they're like, okay, another IT services company, another IT service company, another IT service company. When the guy sees border security technology, they're going to flip and be like, wait, you're one out of 500 capability statements I've seen that actually says border security technology. Cybersecurity services, Einstein 3A cybersecurity implementation. Okay. Cloud computing, FedRAMP high cloud migration for sensitive systems. Again, these are going to make you one of 100, one of 500, one of 1,000. Just by changing your words. Same company, same capabilities, different positioning. I really want people to get this because we're showing that you are different from the next person. And the people who are not watching this are going to keep sending the same stuff. And then you, because you are going to implement this into your business, you're going to have more follow-up calls, ultimately more meetings, which leads to more contracts. One page only, no exceptions. So again, I have a front and a back page, but mine is one page, just double-sided. All right, clear visual hierarchy, most important information first. I can't tell you how many people I've seen their name and their phone number at the bottom of the page. I couldn't even find how to contact them. I promise you, I'm not making this stuff up. I've seen it. Plenty of white space. Don't crowd it. I've seen people try to fill in every time, all the gaps, just every single gap they could. Consistent colors and fonts. I've seen people print out capability statements. I've seen them all black before. That the person can't even print them out. It's great for a digital capability statement, but it's not so great for people who want to print them out. And believe it or not, the government, I've seen government people who have a stack of capability statements printed out before on their desk. Has anybody else ever seen that before? I have. Scannable bullets, not paragraphs. I looked at one last week. I couldn't even read it. It was like 3 paragraphs and another 2 paragraphs. And I'm like, I literally could not read it. I mean, I didn't know. First of all, the part that I could read did not tell me what they did. And then the rest of it was just like blah, 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 chat GPT. All right. So again, 5 mistakes that'll kill chances, multiple pages. I've seen people with 3 pages, 4 pages, 5 pages. Please don't do that. No cage or UEI. All right. I have not really seen that mistake that often, but I'm not surprised people do it. Outdated information. I do see that a lot with SBA profiles where people have not updated it in years. Buzzwords without proof. World class, right? I remember when I had, oh my goodness, the small business liaison officer on my podcast, and she said, never put your number 1 at anything, because that's something that you cannot prove that you're actually number 1 at anything. So she says, never write that, because people say, I'm the number 1 this, I'm the top this, I'm the top that. And really, you're not the top in anything, because there's always someone that's better, stronger. They've done it before. Again, poor quality PDFs. I mean, poor quality is not even a word. I've seen horrific quality. I've seen formatting all over the place, very confusing. I promise you this. When you see my capability statement and the client when I built that's done over $35 million in contracts, you're going to, it's so simple that it's going to make your head spin because you're like, wait, I did all this stuff. By the way, another problem that I see a lot of people make is they hire graphic designers to make their capability statement. Please don't hire a graphic designer. A graphic designer's job is to make graphics. Your capability statement is not an image. It is a business resume. So ultimately, you're conveying to people what you do, right? In terms of so that they can read it, articulate it, understand it, and then potentially give you the opportunity to contract or do business with you or set up a meeting in lieu of, in hopes of eventually doing business with you at some point. So don't give it to graphic designers. They're the worst people to make capability statements because, again, their job is to make pretty graphics, not get the information across that we're trying to get across to the person sitting on the side reading this. If you watched anything that I talked about today, was not about making it how the graphics side of it, but making the communication of the words and the messaging side of what you're trying to communicate to the person so that you stand out. All right, so your action plan this week, I'm going to send you the link for a free template. Audit your capability statement against the 6 sections. Pick one target agency from your list to go after and understand their priorities, their pain points, so that you can start writing your past experiences and your differentiators, talking to those things, and then create an agency-specific version. So, all right, so the key takeaway today, generic capability statements get ignored, specific ones get meetings. Every agency should get a customized capability statement. Yes, it's more work, but it's worth it, which is one of the reasons why we don't encourage people to go after 20 agencies. We always like to say 3 to 5 agencies. Pick a hit list, be strategic in your approach. I know it seems counterintuitive to go after a smaller list to get more opportunities, but so far, you taking shots at everywhere and throw darts everywhere, how far has that gotten you to this point? Probably not very far. Again, free resources coming up. So go to our govcongiants.org/surge. That's our new boot camp that's starting this week, January 31st. You still get a chance to get all of our free resources that are listed there, regardless of whether or not you sign up for the boot camp. So you're going to get access to all of our free resources. I'll put it in the chat. If you have any questions, here's our phone, the text, and then here's our email as well. Again, so on the 31st, we're going to have 8 hours of training. We're going to review some capability statements. We're going to go over a personalized target list of government customers, your 90-day action plan. We're going to go through how to actually find the pain points and priorities of the government agencies that are your target hit list so that you can now write your capability statement to them. And we're going to show you our database that we use, our tools, in order to help you find people that want to buy your services, primes, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, so that you can actually talk to them. And so you can have more people to present your capability statements to increase your odds of actually winning contracts. Next week, we're going to talk about how to find and contact the right buyers. I'll show you exactly how to find small business liaison officers, contract officers, decision makers, and what to say to them when you reach out. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any of that stuff. As always, here's my data sources from everything that I talk about, where I pull out this information that I use to make this content and videos. Thanks as always for watching. And I'm going to switch screens so I can show you the client, and then I can show you the capability statement, and then I'll show you my template, and then we'll go into questions and answers. So hopefully you were writing your questions in the chat. So I'll go back now, and we'll take a look at that as I pull down my screen and switch to my next screen share. All right, so here's my client. Oh, sorry, I'm sharing the wrong thing. All right, so hold on one second. All right, so that's the link for the free resources, just so you know. So when you click on this page, you'll see all the free resources that we have coming up that you get for free. And in this particular bootcamp, we're going to teach you how to use all those free resources as well. So just put in your name, email, and we'll send you basically the 5 downloads you need to start 2026. Right? We'll go over. So you'll have the January 2026 agency buyers list. You're going to have a 26 hit list of low bid competition bid contracts, agency pain point guides, the NDA 2026, what you need to know, and then our recompetes contracts list of 2026 expiring contracts. This is the client that I was telling you about. And so when I came on in 2018 to help them out, they had already been in AA a few years. So again, 2018, 4 million, 2020, 11 million, 2021, 5, and so forth. So again, they've done probably about 35, 7 million. You can do the math yourself and add it all up. And this is the actual capability statement that I built them right here. And so this is literally the capability statement that I built them that was able to land them these contracts. And the majority of the work is all sole source negotiated contracts. So the majority of all the work you see on there is non-bid negotiated sole source work. And this is literally the capability statement that I use for them to actually essentially get that work. So I was the guy that was going out and pitching this capability statement to government agencies on their behalf, right? And I was pitching that to them to get us meetings so that I can essentially describe to them what areas of the business, of the agencies that we could help them with and who we were and what we were great at. So again, for me, this is literally the capability statement that I use verbatim. And I'm going to send you guys this. So this is the template that I pulled it from. So again, I use this for myself. I have another client right now that I'm helping sole source contracts for. They've done 15 million. This is literally the Word template that this came from. So this is the Word template it came from. This is how it looked. The final version looks, but essentially, I mean, it's the same template, same boxes, same squares, right? Literally same. You can see it's the same format. They just changed the image, put their name at the top. So I'll send you this. Anyone of you guys can essentially have it and you can copy it. I don't care. I mean, look, it's landed me and my clients over $50 million in contracts, this basic template. So I say that because don't get all crazy with this stuff. Okay. You're making it too crazy. And you're making me crazy when I see you because you just be like, you don't give me any information that I need to actually know how to help you. And then, so you give me a whole bunch of garbage stuff and then stuff I'm looking for, like I don't have on there. So again, this is a great template for people that are starting out. We've done $50 million with it. So I know it works. And again, the proof is, you can see the proof right there. So I don't know how much more you guys proof you need to see other than contract wins. You see the name of the company right there at the top. And then you see the capability statement right here at the top. So, all right, let's go in and take some questions for people. All right. By the way, if you found it helpful, today's presentation, wow, I lasted 40 minutes. Just put a rocket in the chat. I like rockets. What's going on, Winona? Welcome. Welcome, new member. Ronnie, always a pleasure seeing you. What's going on, Charles from Cleveland? All right, San Antonio, Texas, Dallas. Stephanie Green hanging out. Yes. Okay, so first question, how do you find our pain points before prepping? Okay, so I'll go back. Let me go back to this chart. So this is a great question. How do you find our pain points before prepping? This is, so a couple of things you can do. So this is all the data sources that I use from to get the pain points. So I pull from different places. I look at strategic plans. I look at budget documents. I look at National Defense Authorization Act. So these are the areas that I pull from to do this. Now, what I will say is we've made it a little bit easier for people to do that. And I did create some tools that we can do that we've done. So here, Let's see. I'll find it for you guys. Hold on. So Ben, if you come over here, I'm gonna help you out, Ben. All right. So Ben, if you put in this information right here, all right, in the chat. So if you come in, you put in govcongiants.org/op. In here, it takes you to our free tool that we have where you can essentially put in, I'll pull it up for you. You could put in the name of the agency. Here, I'll show you, Ben. So to answer your question, how do you find it? So I got a couple tools that we've made to make it easier. I mean, I personally did all the research, but if you want to make it easier on yourself, here's a tool that we made. Put in your NAICS code 541. I don't even know those NAICS. I'm going to put in my own 260. I'm going to put in my zip code. All right. I'm going to scout opportunities. And Ben, what this tool does is it essentially finds all the agencies that buys your services, and it lists on there. So here it found the different agencies, that specific offices that buys your services. And then on here, let's just pick this one, Department of Army. It lists their priorities and pain points for you. And so that's an easy way to get that information. I've already done all the hard work for you to do that. So here, again, with 5 data inputs, your small business, your NAICS code, your zip code, you can essentially find a list of agencies that buy your services, and it'll tell you their priorities and pain points. Now you can speak to that inside of your capability statement. And it does that for all the agencies. So some of the data came from, like here, I pulled this from an EPA report, water assessment. This one came from another EPA report in 2025. This one came from an infrastructure law that was passed. So I built a database of agency pain points and priorities that I now put into our tools that we use. And so it's easy for us to basically, based on your NAICS code, your zip code, and your target agencies, to come up with the pain points and priorities. And then you can now speak to that in your capability statement. Hope that helps answer your question. All right. So Sylvia says, for past performance, to include the BPA or specific task orders. Again, to me, Sylvia, it depends on what helps you, right? So, I mean, if the BPA helps me because overall it's a big number, then that's great. But for me, I think the task orders would probably do better in a lot of instances because the task orders are specific to the projects that you worked on. So for me, I think the task orders, I would say, would be better because I'll just show you an example. So here, Sylvia, this right here is a task order. It's not the actual BPA. So this would be a task order contract under a BPA. So I could get into the specifics of the task order. So now I could talk about what I did on that task order, what was fulfilled, like my problems, how I overcame it, my challenges, things like that. So for me, I see the task orders being more beneficial, and the BPA, I would probably list up here under like major customers, right? The customer was the customer who gave me the BPA. But in terms of here, like where I list out my specific past performance, right? This to me would be more task order oriented. So for me, I do not like to always include the POC. I usually will put there someone like my project manager, someone that's on my team, not the actual government POC for my capability statement. So that's a good question. So no, I don't actually put down in the government's POC. What's up, ATL? All right, cool. So yeah, no, listen. Again, if you have any questions, yes. So and by the way, Ben, that tool is literally $50. So it costs $50. But you can get the free version. Everyone can get the free version for free. So anybody who's interested in the tool, you could get the free version for free. It costs you no money. And what I would encourage people to do is to use it to start to find out ultimately who buys your services, so you understand, right, the government customer. A lot of us do not even know where to start targeting government agencies. So I built this tool so that we can at least take steps in the right direction. So I was like, first of all, y'all confused about who buys your services. So I'm like, all right, let me just give you the free tool that you can find it using 5 simple inputs. So that's what I did. Now, if you want to go to the pro version and then you get the actual agency pain points, then, it's $50. So, all right. So that's what we did. But as always, if you have any questions about anything, there's our email. There's my phone number. Text us, call us. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. As always, enjoy your night. Over and out.